Hello from the land of TV. This is King Cool. Welcome to the Toast Reviews. Oh no, we're being haunted by the mists of... There we are. Well, actually, it zoomed out pretty far today. I don't know what I'm doing here. For those of you who don't know how this works, I watch a movie, I put it in the toaster, and I talk about it before my toast is done. And this month, we're in the middle of Dueling Movies Month, where two movies came out in reasonable proximity to one another. And we're going to see which one is better. And today, we're doing Madagascar versus The Wild. You guys might not have even heard of The Wild because it disappeared with barely a ripple, like almost an entire year after, after, it's humid today. After Madagascar. I actually just realized that might have just been, that what I just did there might have been on the LCD screen instead of the lens. Oh, if I ever did anything right, it would be amazing. Quick trivia about The Wild. It was directed by Steve Spaz Williams in his only directorial role so far. And he was the visual effects director on Spawn that I did probably about a year ago now in 90s Comic Book Movie Month. The funny thing about that is that the visual effects in Spawn are really bad. So I think even for the time, I mean, people complaining about them. So yeah. And today in the show we have regular old English muffins that I didn't really cut that well. But I'm going to layer them with something new. So first we're going to talk about Madagascar. Here we go. Alright, like, you also know the plot of Madagascar. Chris Rock's zebra, he wants to go, hey, I want to go see the world, and oh god, I'm running out of battery, this is going to be bad. I want to go see the world, and so they eventually just escape the zoo, but because they escape, activists go and say, yes, they want to go back to Africa, so they're stuck in Africa, you know, well, Madagascar specifically, because they have lemurs there, and also fossa, which are the bad guy animals. And they do some things. Like, this is one of those, I guess one of the first ones that had the really sort of abstract animation, very quick sort of style. And it's not that it bothers me a lot more in, let's say, Cloud with a Chance of Meatballs than does here. I mean, this movie, eventually, you know, it's not very, I didn't find it that funny. It's very silly. There's a couple things that are funny. I do like the fact that Melman, the giraffe, exists on such a larger scale than the others that he almost doesn't fit into certain frames because he's a giraffe. And that, I think, they don't really deal with it in this one. I think in a later movie they deal with the fact that, the zebra, I don't remember his name, doesn't have hands, so he can't do certain things. But here he can build like machines and stuff, so it's like, okay, they're not really dealing with that in this one. I don't think that's done. No, definitely not. Turning you up. But God, they cut to a lot of musical interludes in this movie. Like, just anytime they can, there's some sort of frickin' song playing. And they do the wide-angle lens with something like really close to the screen, goes whoa, you know, and this stretches out the face, you know, like they do in like Son of the Mask, except in a computer. And I'm like, this is a 3D movie, this would be freaking obnoxious. And it's doing a lot of groin hits, and by the end, they actually start to deal with the fact that it's like, yeah, up until now, Alan the lion, Ben Stiller, hadn't really thought of his friends as the same thing as where his food comes from. He sees steaks as just steaks. That's what he eats because I guess he was born in captivity. And when he starts to realize, yeah, I would get meat by killing my friends, he starts to go a little nuts. And I sort of wish they'd explored that more, but they don't really. They're just more the fact that, you know, can he control himself? It's like, you know, he's a carnivore. They do come up with an interesting solution to that I had not even seen coming, but once you think of it, you're like, oh yeah, duh, you know. But it also, I think, has the least appropriate use of What a Wonderful World since Bowling for Columbine. Like, I'm just like, does this have to be this scene? Also, they parody American Beauty with him, like, with stakes and stuff. It's like, these people are just, this is just dumb. I think I burned the crap out of that one. No, it's okay. Oh, maybe that's not okay. We'll put that one in there. Yeah, that one's burned. I might just eat that little end of it. I'm not even looking at it again. See, it's burned. I'm gonna try to do this before the battery runs out. I don't know how long it means when it's like, hey, low power. Or if the episode will save if the battery runs out while I'm talking. Now we're going to talk about The Wild. Get in there. Don't do that at home, jeez. The Wild is very similar, but the animation style is more realistic. It's about a lion and his son, and his son doesn't like how to roar, because they say, oh, he's like 11, and I'm like, lions only live 20 years. I mean, with a movie that seems to get a lot more right physiologically about the animals, they screwed up that one that seems really easy, but his son should be like 2 or something. And there's also a giraffe character, a female giraffe, voiced by Janine Garofalo, and the squirrel that's trying to romance her, which is kind of interesting. And so what happens is they have these green boxes that appear, and they're like, oh, those green boxes take you someplace interesting, and his son gets put in one of them, so then they try to save him, but they don't save him in time before he leaves New York, so they actually have to follow the thing on their boat. Yeah, they're riding a boat, you know, all the way to Africa. And it's like, okay, we're doing pretty much sort of the same thing. But it's just less, I mean, there's actually more fart jokes in this one than there is in Madagascar, which kind of surprised me. They actually do that kind of a lot in this one. Not a lot, but, and you know, Kiefer Sutherland, lion, I forget his name, he keeps regaling his son about his time on the Serengeti, and then he reveals something about his character that, you know, you might be able to see coming, but, I still think he's pretty interesting, and shows, like, eventually, like, I don't want to say too much of what happens toward the end, because it starts to get really weird. It starts to turn into almost like the gods must be crazy. If you've ever seen that one. But, what else do I say about this? I mean, there's less musical stuff, there's more sort of silliness. It really feels as if it's been cut down a little bit. Possibly just to get a G, this one's G rated. And Madagascar's PG. I don't really see a huge difference between them. And I'm not going to say that their antics are always that amusing. They're sort of not. I see why this failed to connect. That one's sort of toasty too. But I also, I don't know, I mean, at least when I was watching it, I'm going to go right out and say that I definitely liked The Wild better. Maybe just because it's not so insubstantial. You know, it was about a father and a son. And boy, if you like hearing Kiefer Sutherland yell, "Ryan!" you know, this movie's for you. Also, almond butter. Let's try this stuff. See, I'm going to give the check mark to The Wild. Although I don't think I'm doing a very good job explaining why. If only just because Madagascar, by the end of it, sort of annoyed me. Maybe it's because I know, you know, the history of the whole thing, and they had a theme that I liked, but they didn't really do anything with. Whereas this one, the theme, sort of but they, you know, totally dropped the ball. Anyway, we're almost out of time here. Thank you for watching What's Next on Dueling Movies Month. Only I know, maybe. But thank you for watching. This has been cool. Drive home safe.